Well, hello. How are you? Welcome back. I'm here. I made it through Blizzard 2026. Holy smokes, guys. You know, it's been crazy up here in the Northeast. More snow. This is the most snow we've had in a decade, over a decade. I was thinking about this the other day, and it's like, when you take a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old and you're trying to teach them how to cook, teach them how to bake, and you put the flour in the measuring cup, and you say, okay, Junior, throw it in a little bit easy, and then they just take the whole measuring cup and dump it. That's the way my winter's been. It's like, no little snowstorms here and there. No, it's boom. We had 30 inches of snow, guys, this past Monday. It was a mess. They didn't plow my street until Thursday. Good grief, Charlie Brown. Spring cannot come soon enough. It's a major distraction having to stop what you're doing and shovel out your mailbox. But anyhow, made it through. Only lost power for a day, which was great. But we're talking tonight about, actually, it's a survey that I saw week before last that I was going to talk about. And, it was very interesting because it talks about home sellers over 70 making less money, selling for less, and it intrigued me. I read the briefing on the research paper, and we're going to talk about it tonight. So I'm super interested. I'm super excited to get into this stuff with you guys. I think it's, hopefully it'll provide some value to you, because we're going to kind of get a little deep into the details and whatnot. But just want to welcome the folks. So we had some chat earlier. The chat was popping before I went live, which I love. And I just want to say hi to my good old friend Cindy Atwood, who is in the house. Great to see you, Cindy. You're always here week after week supporting me, showing up and participating in all the things. And I just I appreciate all of you guys. We got Paul T in the house. It cost me $3,500 per month to carry 2 homes, $25,000 more, doubles my money. He is talking about the poll, and we've got an interesting poll, fun poll. I want us to find out, get some information from you guys. We've got Kaylee in the house. We've got lovely Ben Holmes in the house. So we got my friend Clark. We got a full house here. Tracy, good to see you guys as always. So first and foremost, let's go over what we're going to talk about. So first off, post your wins, as we do every week. I want to know what especially the last 2 weeks. I haven't missed you guys. So the last 2 weeks, what's happened? What have you had any success in real estate? Have you had success? Good grief. A little Freudian slip there. Jeepers. This is going to be an interesting show. It's a live show, guys. Whatever has been good in your corner of the world, let us know. Keep it PG, please. QQQ in front of your questions. If you guys have questions in the chat, please put QQQ before your questions so that I don't miss it. The poll. So we've got the poll. Which would you choose when selling your home? I'd like to know your perspective on this. Would you take $25,000 more, but have 3 months of people traipsing through your house? Would you take a lower sale price, but have it sold in a week? Done. Would you do repairs and decluttering? Go through all that work to help it sell more quickly, or would you rather just sell it as is for a little less money and be done? There is no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong answer in this poll. This is personal opinion, and I'd like to know where you guys are at with this. So tonight, homeowners over the age of 70, a new research paper, homeowners over the age of 70 getting lower returns when selling. This was interesting, and once I read the paper, I understood where they're coming from, and we're going to get into those details. And part of that, I'm going to talk after I talk about the article I want to touch on a little bit of selling a home 101, and it's going to tie together, you'll see in the article, on what I'm referring to. But I think it's a very timely conversation because I'm getting a lot of questions. You guys email me, and I'll just tell you right now, it feels like the last month has been snowmageddon here in my southeast Massachusetts. And so if you sent me a question, you filled out the question form, sent me an email, I haven't responded yet, I am not ignoring you. If I haven't gotten back to you on a referral, I have not ignoring you. Just trying to balance shoveling, snow blowing, helping the neighbors and all the things, and getting back into the groove of things. So it's going to be a fun show. Kayla, you picked up on that Freudian slip. Oh, good grief. Oh, we got a win. Paul's got a win. We've been in our new home for more than a year and a half and no ghosts. Let's go. That's a win all day long. Geez, I totally forgot about daylight savings times. Gosh, that is right around the corner, isn't it? We got Fred coming in from Michigan. Welcome, welcome. Mimi asks, do you recommend doing a pre-listing home inspection as a seller of an estate or having buyers pay for home inspection later? Great question. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So we're going to put a pin in that question. We're going to come back to it later. Great question. Very timely question. Paul says, my wife is over 70. She refused to sell for less. It happens. It happens. Yes, Angie, I did thaw out. And you know what? It is just, what's crazy about here this time of year, in the Northeast, is as the sun is getting lower, the rotation's changing. I was talking to my sister about this last night, actually. The days are getting longer, but the sun is producing more heat. We lost like 2 feet of snow over the course of the last 5 days. Bonkers. Because, and it wasn't incredibly warm necessarily, but it was well above, it was in the 40 degrees. But I'm hoping we're supposed to get rain. It started to snow this afternoon, but we're supposed to get rain the next several days. So fingers crossed. We might even see the grass by the end of the week, which would be really nice. Mark Chandler asks, they need to raise or do away with capital gains on home sales and to increase the number of homes on the market. Yes, yes, and yes. And I know that's a topic of conversation. The administration has, in its bipartisan approval, they're both on the same page that the capital gains tax needs to be revamped. It hasn't been touched in decades. It needs to be updated significantly for today's homeowners, home sellers. Yes, Tiffany, 3 months of showings is stressful, and it all depends on what your tolerance is. Arizona's 85 degrees. That is too hot for me. That's too warm for me. I guess that is why I live in the Northeast. All right, let's we're gonna get right into the study. So CNBC, not that I'm necessarily a fan of CNBC, but they did a good breakdown without getting into the research article. I will link the research article in the description so you can go through it. It's dry. It's a dry article. So, and a lot of to weed through, this article kind of summarizes it, I think, very, very nicely. So it says, for homeowners sell their house later in life, that timing may come with a cost. A new research suggests once sellers reach about age 70, they start getting lower sale prices for their houses compared to younger homeowners. According to a January research brief published by the Center for Retirement Research at Boston College, up in our neck of the woods. Compared to sellers in their 40s and 50s, an 80-year-old homeowner gets a 5% lower price for a house held for about 11 years, according to the study. On a typical home price of $405,400, the national median sale price in December, median, just to distinguish, You'll hear a lot about the average sale price, which is going to be not as representative. Doesn't give you a good representation of the number of homes, the ranges of homes. States like California, Northeast Boston, New Jersey. That's going to throw that price out of whack. Median gives you a better representation on what the sale price is across the country. But 405 and change in December, according to the National Association of Realtors. This amounts to a loss about 20 grand, $20,000. This gap continues to grow as homeowners age. As they get older, that gap widens. It goes on to say that why older sellers may see lower returns. And this is kind of what I wanted to touch on with this article, but also wanted to elaborate on the second part, which is that the home selling 101. This is part of the disparity in returns is tied to home maintenance. Homes sold by older owners are more likely to show signs. I don't personally, guys, I don't like the way that they phrase this article. It kind of bothered me. This is older owners. What is old? 70 is not, it said 70 is the new, the new, 60, I guess, 55, 60, people living longer in the whole 9 yards. As sharp as a tack. But in any event, homes sold by older homeowners are likely to show signs of deferred upkeep or fewer upgrades. According to the research, that can weigh on sales price even after accounting for location and market conditions. It says additionally, the research indicates that the older homeowners are more likely to sell through private and off-market listings and deals that never appear in the public multiple listing service, MLS, where buyers search via online real estate sites. And I know I can actually back this up because a lot of you folks reach out and ask questions about these, buy as is, ugly. Here up here they have there's a company called sell your ugly home, or we buy ugly homes, that kind of stuff, where basically there's companies that just they just want to do a private sale. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to deal with any showings or whatnot. It is appealing to a lot of people. It is, and for some it's the right thing to do, but it comes at a price. It always comes at a price. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in detail. It says the median home equity for age 65 plus is $250,000. It says for many homeowners, their house will be one of their largest assets as they head into retirement. I agree with that. It says in 2022, median home equity for homeowners age 65 and over was $250,000, up 47% from 2019, where it was $170,000. And this is according to a 2023 report from the Joint Center of Housing Studies at Harvard University. That amount represents 50% of the median wealth among households for 65-year-olds and older. The fact of the matter is, a lot of folks, the average American, their home is their financial vehicle for retirement. That is the equity that accumulates. Typically, the housing market, on average, the last 50 years, outpaces the stock market. It does. And so, yes, you can make that money if you are studious in your stock market. If you either do that yourself, or you have a very astute financial advisor, portfolio manager that will make that money for you. But for most folks, it's their home. So every penny counts. 20 grand is a lot of money to leave on the table. It's a lot of money. It goes on to say that it says as Americans stay healthier and live longer, more are selling their homes later in life. And this is Jessica Lautz, Deputy Chief Economist and Vice President of the National of Research for the National Association of Realtors. It says, it goes on to say that also in that latter age group are 15% who sold their home for less than 90% of the list price, the largest share of any age group, according to the report. At the same time, they're also the least likely age group to offer incentives to buyers, home warranties, assistance with closing costs, etc. I I back that up as well. I concur. 100, I see this. And why is this? Because of the fact that oftentimes, if you have, your spouse passes, or you're very emotionally tied to your home, it's a hard process to sell a home, especially if you've been in the house for a long period of time. The overwhelm is overwhelming. It's an overwhelming process. And there's more emotion involved than, say, someone that has, treats it more like a transaction. You kind of a little bit more removed. And when you have that extra emotion, when you start getting into the discussions and negotiation, that becomes a little bit more complicated. It's not overly complicated, but every little element that you add to a negotiation increases the complexity. And oftentimes, an aging homeowner that's already stressed to the max, is just like, I just want to sell my house. I don't want to get all fancy with incentives, and it's too much. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. I just want to sell it, and whatever the price is, that's it. And so I can understand and see that happening for sure. It's not, laziness. It is not for, lack of education or anything of that nature. It's just, it just is. It just is. It's emotional process. It goes on to talk about planning ahead. I talk a lot about this in my content, about the importance of planning ahead, because I'm a planner. I bring a lot of everything I talk about in my content is stuff that I either live or have done in my own business over the last 30 years. But I'm always a planner, consummate planner. So I see the value in doing that. Now, June what a last name, a certified financial planner with secure tax and accounting in Beverly Hills, California, says that from what we see working with older homeowners, lower sales prices usually come from deferred maintenance and last-minute decisions that are often driven by tight cash flow in retirement. Small fixes get delayed, then buyers notice everything at once and price it in. Planning ahead can make a difference. Things like setting aside some cash for upkeep, decluttering over time, tying the home sale into a broader retirement cash plan can help avoid selling under pressure. Philip Strahan, who is the co-author of the Center for Retirement Research, in the research report, says, to the extent that you have a relationship with an older person, protect their interest, make sure they're taking care of their house. Now, he's coming from the aspect of, it's also worth adult children, neighbors, and other family members keeping an eye on the upkeep of an older loved one's home. I'll be honest, I kind of giggled when I read this. My parents are my dad's gonna be 80 this year. My mom's right behind him. I'm not telling them anything about the upkeep of their house. No, it insinuates this comment. This is my commentary. Kind of insinuates that an older person is incapable of making these decisions. I disagree with that. I think that if you are mature in years, then I think that the message should be encouraging you to, if you have family that you can lean on, then you should do that. Let them know, communicate that you might need help, but to have it the other way, I'm sorry. If I were to tell my parents what they need to do, what they shouldn't do with their house, yeah, they're going to tell me to go pound sand. So I think their point is to just, to make sure, if you can, to help your loved one. It says, and at the same time, there are many reasons that the lower sale price is a trade-off the homeowner is willing to make. And we're going to talk about this in detail because there's a lot to unpack here, for sure, on the reasons why someone would sell for less. It is not due to ignorance. It is not due. Could it be due to an agent that is misguiding them? Yes. Could it be, some sort of nefarious situation, with the agents, plural? Yes. Is that the majority? No, that is not the majority. The majority of folks that are in this type of situation it is because of planning. It's not proper planning, or not planning and have that plan be in tune with you, what is important to you. So that's what I'm going to get into next. All right, let me jump in the chat and see. Oh, you guys are popping today. I'm going to roll back the clock here, roll back the chat. Paul says that 13.7% of home purchase agreements were canceled in January 26, according to Redfin. Record high was 16.3 a month before. Paul, I'm going to question whether that is weather related. And because, I mean, this weather that we're having is not isolated to the Northeast. Across the country, it's been brutal this winter, for for a good portion of the country. Yes, it could be financial. Yes, it could be politically motivated, consumer confidence and all the things. There's so many moving parts that is unusual, that have been unusual during the winter. So I would say that has something to play with that. Tracy, I'm just going to say one more thing about the weather. I really like the snow. I don't like dirty, grimy winters. I like the nice, bright white snow. But I'm done. The beginning of winter, I'm like, oh, great, I don't have to worry about landscaping and mowing and trimming and all the things. And now I'm like, I need to go back to that ASAP. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, Medina asks, should we move a hot tub before selling? That's a very good question. It really depends on, is the hot tub functional? Are you planning to take it with you? Which I guess kind of irrelevant, because if you're taking it with you, then you would disclose that anyways. But is it fully functional? Does it add value or detract? If you put it in, you had your enjoyment with it and all the things, but you put it, I don't know, in the middle of your deck or the middle of your yard or whatever. For you, that was fine. You didn't care. But if you're in a home that might be attractive to families, growing families, or young couples that are starting families, and a hot tub may be a negative, that would be something that you would talk to your agent to find out what are the buyer trends right now in your particular area. What are the things that, because a lot of stuff I'm talking about, it is not black and white. It is not black and white. It doesn't happen in every single situation, because every neighborhood's going to be different. The wants and needs of buyers are going to be different depending on your location, in the country, in the town that you live in. It all comes down to, is it helping or hurting you sell? Really, that's the question you need to ask. And if it's hurting you, either it's functional, but it detracts the value, I would probably, try to sell it, try to get rid of it. If it's broken and like, I don't want to put the money into it, and it detracts from the sale, time to call 1-800-JUNK and get rid of it. But be proactive on it. Paul, I did not see the blood moon. Working all day, actually. I think I saw that on the calendar. Let's see. Yes, I saw your correction there, and I get what you're saying. Yeah, you know what, Paul? That's a hard thing to do. When you're 70, stop caring for your home, and let things go. Easier said than done. Easier said than done. I don't hold on to certain things. I'm not a minimalist, but I can't stand clutter. It brings me stress. So that's how I manage my stress. But it doesn't mean that it's easy to let stuff go. And it's hard. It's hard, especially when these things are linked to memories. Very, very, very difficult. All right, lots of chatter about capital gains. Let's see. What happened to audio and video? Can you guys, everything looks good on your end? I don't know when you posted that comment there. It should be, everything is, I got my laptop, so everything looks okay on my end. So it could be, do a quick refresh on your browser. Maybe an internet connection. Clark says, I've been seeing people. Now, Clark is an agent down in Atlanta. I've been seeing people lowering their costs down here for health reasons, especially if it is a parent that got sick and the kids are taking them to live with them. Yes. Yes. Very interesting. Yeah, and I think that is a big part of what is happening, Clark, and at that point now the kids are tasked with, selling the house while they're living their lives and managing all the other things that they have to deal with, and don't have the time to sell, to do updates and all the things to the house to maybe maximize that value. Let's see. Alex says, on an earlier video, you said that as a seller, one should ask the listing agent how they would handle being contacted by a buyer directly without representation. Yes. And as far as, if a buyer contacts a listing agent directly, if a buyer contacts me directly, and this is a personal business decision for me, because I am adamantly opposed against dual agency, and dual agency, for those, if you don't know, it essentially means that one agent represents both sides. Now, it's not one agent handling. There's representation and there's being a facilitator. Two different modes, two different levels of disclosure. A facilitator is just, you're not getting any advice from them. They're just, they're just juggling the checklist of the transaction, and they're just forwarding. The seller said this, you pass to the buyer said this, yeah. Facilitator doesn't give advice to either party. Dual agency means that you actually represent both parties. I believe in the deepest part of my soul, that is impossible. How can you look out for the best interest of two competing parties? There's a reason why attorneys can't do it. Attorneys by law cannot represent. Why can real estate agents do that? It's a loophole that needs to be eliminated, in my opinion. They do it, they can make more money because they get both sides of the, they can negotiate both sides of the commission. But to answer your question, when a buyer contacts me directly, me personally, I have an agent in my office that I do not give personal private information about the seller. I don't talk to him at all about the inner workings of my seller, any private information. Basically, all he knows is what's on the multiple listing service, just like every other agent. If a buyer contacts me directly, and I do trust him, and he's obviously a 20%, 10%, agent, I hand him off. And say, here's a referral for a buyer. And now and that's it. And I don't know anything about the buyer, anything that, unless he wants to tell me, but it's, he's representing his client. I'm representing my client. End of story. And that's how I do it. The only other thing that I've seen done is, and I have done this on a limited basis in the past, is let the buyer know I don't represent you. I don't, and I can't give you advice. And everything you say to me, I'm telling the seller. And I've had a couple of situations where they were fine with it, and they either bought a lot of houses, in the past, or they, the last one I had was a few years ago, and the dad was a retired real estate attorney, so he advised them. Well, that's fine, but I didn't advise them. I didn't give them any information. I just handled the transaction on, what they needed to do and all the things. All right. Dun, 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 dun. Celeste asked, do home inspections use the same software generally? Do the reports differ from state to state? So I would say that it probably does. In Massachusetts, home inspectors many states, and I'd look it up to see which states require licensing. Massachusetts requires home inspectors to be licensed. But the software that they use for their inspections is not regulated at all. It just, they're not, there's no oversight, when it comes to home inspections on how they put their report together and what they inspect and whatnot. It's going to differ based on the company. All right. I'm going to switch gears here in a second. We'll just peruse through. We got a win on Angie says our son is moving out. We love our children. Of course we love our children. And we love them when they leave the nest and go out into the scary world and start getting their bumps and bruises just like we did. Congratulations. That's a big, that's a big milestone. It's a big milestone. David says only the 8% agent will be a dual agent. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how a 20% agent is a dual agent. I mean, it's a tough thing. I don't see how. I don't believe any of my referral partners will do dual agency. Now that being said, some of them have teams where they have agreements with their team members, all things. The big thing is you want to know, how is personal information protected? Period. What type of sharing of information? And you have to rely on the fact that they're telling you the truth. The truth. This is what you hope. Have faith in people. Home Selling 101. So this article really kind of gets back, and I said this is a good opportunity for me to get into this stuff, because I haven't really talked about this. I'm been working on the content. Haven't been able to get out any regular teaching content in a bit. It's been a crazy winter for multiple reasons. So wanting to just get into this, a little bit with you guys to kind of, touch on, where do you start? Where do you start with this stuff, and what is, especially if you are heading into retirement or are in retirement, and maybe the whole process is overwhelming. You don't know where to start. So the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of lists. But specifically what I wanted to highlight is not a checklist of clean the kitchen, wash the windows, that type of stuff. What I would want you to do is make a list of what is the most important thing to you, such as, is it the most important thing that you don't want to do any updates, repairs, maintenance, because either you can't physically, you can't financially, you can't time-wise. Maybe like Clark said, if you have health issues and you need to sell your house ASAP, that is something that you confide in the agent that you are going to use, that is the number one thing, which means it's a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off. That's why that poll is no right or wrong answers. There's no right or wrong answers. It all comes back to, what is the most important thing to you? I would say, getting back to this study, yes, it might mean leaving money on the table. But the thing to remember, it's not always about the money. And I know I'm going to get like kickback and you say, well, it's always about the money. Not when you're talking about emotional stress or health issues or a spouse dying. At the end of the day, money is paper. But your health, your livelihood, your family, that's tangible. That's real. That's real. So you got to make a list on what is the most important to you, time-wise. Maybe it is money. Maybe the whole thing is you want to make as much money as you can. You're willing to do whatever you need to do to get it. Got to write every little thing that is detailed and then prioritize it. That list is going to guide you through your entire process. When you start getting overwhelmed, you're like, I should do this, and you start talking to agents and you're interviewing agents and you're getting overwhelmed. And you're like, I don't know where to start because this agent told me to do this and that makes sense. And this agent told me to do that and that makes sense. You take your list out and you remind yourself, what is the most important thing to me. That is the thing that you got to remind yourself. After you do that, then comes a decluttering, depersonalize. This stuff is not necessarily fun. Sometimes it's very satisfying, but this stuff, it can be a grind. The decluttering is going to help no matter what your goals are. No matter what your goals are, decluttering your house, meaning you start going through, and now sometimes decluttering might mean, depending on your time frame, and I just went through this with a home seller, they wanted to sort it, decide, I did a video, I've done several videos on this where, some may go to trash, it may go to donation, it may be given away, sometimes you don't have the luxury of time to go through that process. Sometimes you don't have the emotional capacity to be able to handle going through that process, which means, this is the thing that I always tell my sellers is if you pick up an item and as soon as you pick it up, you don't know whether you want to keep it or get rid of it, it goes in the box. You decide later, but it goes in a box. It goes in a box. If you pick up a thing and say, I really don't want this anymore, boom, either donate it or give it away or trash it, your choice. But if you're unsure, put it in a box, label it to be decluttered, to be sorted, but get it. You've got to start packing because it's hand in hand with depersonalization. You need to transform your home from a home to a house on the market. What does that mean? Does that mean you have to make it stale or sterile? Does that mean you have to take down every family picture and take down everything that is, a reflection of you? No, but you don't want it to be a distraction. And that's the reason why depersonalizing decluttering is so important is you don't want to distract the buyer. You're not selling your stuff, you're selling the house. If you walk in and you have a wall of 40 pictures, and that is the thing that makes you the most happy and has made you the most happy because you see your family and kids or grandkids, whatever, that's great. But legally can't do this, but you're not selling the kids. The pictures aren't staying. It is a distraction. Why? Because as soon as that buyer walks in, that's where their eyes are going to go. And maybe you have a living room, a nice fireplace. That's where you want them to look, but they're distracted by the pictures. It's natural. It is natural. And this is, this is something that happens to every single buyer. And is it the reason the house sells or doesn't sell? Not necessarily. No. But a culmination of these things, it's all a home sale typically is emotional. A home purchase is emotional. Buyers are going to buy based on emotion, how they feel as soon as they walk through the door. Period. If they feel like they can see themselves living here. It's a question when I'm working with a buyer after we go through the house and we kind of, I like to just, poke holes in it, find out all the problems and the warts and all the things, let the buyer tell me why they love it. And then the question I always ask them, if it does make sense, ask them, do you see yourself living here? And if the answer is yes, well, then we talk about, writing an offer. But if they can't get past seeing you living there, it's a problem. The other thing that does is it gets you out of the pressure cooker when you get an accepted offer. And I've seen this mistake time and time again, the thought that you've got plenty of time, typical closing is, on average 6 weeks. You go, I can pack my house in 6 weeks. It is not enough time. I'm telling you, 30 years I've been doing this, it is not enough time. The earlier you start, the better. The earlier you start, the better. You'll be glad you did because there is a lot of moving parts. Not only do you have to pack, but it's coordinating the move and all the things that are connected to that. It's a lot. The more you can do ahead of time, the better off you'll be. Repairs. This article talked about repairs. Now, this is where it gets super personal, and it comes back to that list on what is the most important thing to you. When you walk through your house, you may have deferred maintenance. You may have necessary repairs. You may have things that should have been taken care of that either you didn't have the time or the money to take care of it. The thing that I want you to think about, and this is why you think about this before it goes on the market, is and why I am a big believer of having an agent that you interview and go through that vetting process and are comfortable with as a team partner to give you advice, because you've got to determine, are these things that need to be fixed? Are they going to stand in the way of selling the house? Are they going to, hamper you getting the price that you want to get? How does that, how does that price, how does the condition of that home fit into your overall goals? If your goal is just to sell it because you financially can't be there anymore, or health reasons, you can't be there and you don't have the ability to make repairs, well then, and the answer to this question would be, you make a list, you find out what needs to be disclosed, you disclose it to the buyer, price it accordingly. You will sell the house for less, but it's a give and take. You're selling it for less, but you're not having to make repairs, and you're achieving the goal that is the number one goal to you. But if you can make needed, necessary repairs, you want to make sure you allot time for that, to avoid. My suggestion is always, if you have things that you're capable of doing, you're willing to do, you can afford to do not wait to do it. Do it before it goes on the market. I have had some sellers say, oh, I'll just wait for the home inspection, see if they ask for it. No, because you know what's going to happen? What they'll do is they'll say, okay, I have this, leaky faucet. Just have a situation like that this past week. Leaky faucet. You have it fixed. Maybe you do it yourself. Maybe you have a family member that can do it, or you hire a plumber. Say it costs, you do it yourself, $100. Let's just say for argument's sake. When a buyer comes in, they do a home inspection, they see that leaky faucet. They're not going to ask for $100. Oh, no. They're going to ask for whatever they think a faucet costs plus a plumber. And then they're going to add a little bit for the inconvenience and the unknown of like, oh, not only does the faucet need to be replaced, but maybe the shutoff valves need to be replaced as well, or whatever. So that $100 now becomes $500. And that happens on every repair. The more you can do for the necessary stuff, the stuff that's broken, the better off you will be. It'll end up being less of a nightmare in the long run. Okay. Now the flip side of that is updates that add value. If you are looking at it, been thinking about, geez, I've always wanted to do this. And, maybe this is the thing that I want to do, and I'll do it before it goes on the market. It'll increase the value. Please, please, please do your homework, do your research, ask your agent if that market, the market that you're in, goes back. The hot tub is a perfect example. Does it make sense? Do the buyers in your market value a hot tub? Maybe it makes sense to fix it if it's broken. You've got to look at what those updates are. The last thing you want to do is over-improve, and I've seen people do this, over-improve the house, super personalize the improvements, and not get your money back. There are very few improvements that you get 100% return on your investment. 100%. The only things that really give you 100% are things like painting. If you are a DIYer and you do it right, I need to emphasize that very, very, very strongly. If you're a DIYer and you can do it correctly, I've seen so many bad DIY jobs over the years, then those are the things that you need to take a step back and say, does this make sense? Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. You want to make sure that you don't shoot yourself in the foot, overspend, and then not get the money back. And that I see happen time and time again, because you think, well, the buyer will pay more. But the problem is they're not going to, especially now with the cost of goods, of the DIY projects, the cost of everything's gone through the roof. You spend $10,000, you may not get $10,000 more for your house. Especially depending on where you live in the country, you may get less. You may get far less. It's now not necessarily worth it. And then the last thing on, and I'll go to the next section in a second, but the other thing would be a home inspection. Now I bring this up because of the fact that if a couple different scenarios, if say your spouse passed and your spouse did a lot of the upkeep on the house, now you are selling this house, you have no idea what needs to be done, what should be done. You don't know the maintenance condition, all the things. It may make sense to have a home inspection before you put the house on the market. If you have been, you're in charge of selling a parent's house, and you don't live there. You're an adult and you're trying to sell this house, and you have no idea what mom or dad have done to the house over the years. It may make sense to have a home inspection. If anything, just to know what is wrong with the house. Because if you have a home inspection, you find out, oh, the home inspector found that the roof has a small leak. Well, now you can fix it, avoid a home inspection issue. Okay. On the flip side, you may have a water heater that is not leaking. It's up there in years, but it's totally fine. You have a home inspection report so that if a buyer asks about that, now you've got something to back it up as a negotiation tactic. You say, hey, listen, it's not leaking, it's fine, all the things. Or you could have things that are not, structural, like a leak or whatnot, but you may just disclose that there's an issue that needs to be taken care of. These are the things that you're not going to fix, but you want to make sure that you let the buyer know. Why do you want to let them know? Because if they know that before they make an offer, that removes that point of negotiation. If I tell you the roof is older, it's at the end of its life, you should probably budget for a replacement before you even make an offer. And then you come to me and you say, you know what, I want $10,000 off because the roof is older. Sorry, pal, we're disclosed that. You made an offer based on the fact that you knew that the roof is older. Nope. There's no leg to stand on. They knew that ahead of time. That's the value of having a home inspection. It's to reveal the things so you understand the house. If you have done all the maintenance yourself, if you have an understanding of everything that's in the house, I won't do a home inspection on my house. Why? Because I do all the maintenance. I am very, I'm also super, super, super type A. So, I keep track of everything and all the things. If you are in that type of position, then don't do a home inspection. Doesn't make any sense. Why spend, $400, $500, $600 unnecessarily? All right. I got more to add to that. I'm going to take a second and I'm going to just check in the chat, chat, and see what you guys, what kind of questions you guys got. Oh, God, a lot of good stuff. I missed you guys last week. I really did. Oh, my goodness. Alex says, is a Jack and Jill bathroom back in fashion or desirable? That's a great question. I have not heard whether that's in style or not. I don't have an opinion on it. I would have to research that, my friend, to find out. I wish I had a comment on that commentary, but I don't. Good question. Karen says, "Why I can't see myself letting my home go, and we are over 70. You know what? I don't see myself leaving this house for quite some time as well. It's the minute I told my kids, the minute the stairs and all the things start getting to be a problem, then reality. It's four walls and a roof at the end of the day." Alex says, "My decorating style is Club Med." I love humor. Love humor. Right. Yes, Lane says the dual agency sounds like a conflict of interest. Yes. Yes. In my opinion, it is. Paul says when the seller ends up paying the buyer agent fee greater than 90% of the time, how can they be 100% loyal to the buyer. You're talking about how can the buyer's agent be loyal to the buyer? I mean, the way, especially right now, and this was like the whole reason for the National Association of Realtors settlement and the lawsuit and whatnot, is to make a divide for that, with that loyalty. The fact of the matter is, the negotiation on a buyer agent fee is not, it cannot be, and it is not until the offer is made and the buyer is the one that asks the seller, not the buyer agent. The buyer asks for compensation to help them pay their buyer agent, period. So the buyer's agent is not being hired by the seller. Okay. It is technically a compensation to the buyer, who then, in turn pays their agent. So there's no tie between the seller and the buyer's agent, the seller's agent and the buyer's agent, at all. And honestly, that makes more sense that way. It absolutely makes more sense that way. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Uh-oh, MHOA says, I know I'm late, but I have a good reason. Sounds like something's brewing there. Did you get your grocery shopping done up in Denver? Let's see. Angie says, we've pretty much done everything. We just, some more decluttering. Done a lot of it already, and it actually feels good. You know what? It absolutely feels wonderful. I think it's super, super satisfying. Matter of fact, my oldest is going on a trip up to New Hampshire for a week. They're gonna do some mountain hiking. So she came over yesterday and to get some cold weather gear because I'm gonna be outside and all the things, and went up in the attic to get the box. I used to ski back in the day. I will never get on a pair of ski. That scares the daylights out of me. Probably break a leg at this point. But I went up in my attic and and the first thing I said, this has been on my to-do list for years, to clean out the attic. I'm doing it this spring. It's happening. It is so satisfying. It is so satisfying to go through and be like, I don't need this box from a computer that I bought 12 years ago, 15 years ago. No, some stuff I don't even own anymore. Yes, Paul says, label the boxes really well. You will thank yourself. Big labels, thick markers. When you declutter, when you pack, color your labels based on the room. Red label is kitchen. This is crucial. If you're having help moving, you're having movers, it makes it super easy. It makes it much easier. Much easier. I mean, you could get really granular with your labeling, but color coding, green is living room, blue is the dining room, et cetera, et cetera. Way easier. And then take that, and some people do tape, and they'll do colored tape. Make sure you do it on all four sides, because they're putting those boxes in the truck and they're not all facing the same direction. So yeah, great advice. Great advice. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see. Parrot 22 Head says, I was in my home 25 years. I had to throw away my firstborn son umbilical cord. What? Follow Jen's instructions started 6 months ago. Our advice has been a godsend close to March 13th. Fly March 14th. Well, I thank you for that shout out on that. And I'm super happy for you, because that is hard. Yeah, mementos and stuff is tough. I leverage technology with a lot of stuff, kids' pictures, or any of that kind of stuff, the macaroni necklaces and stuff. Do we really need to keep that stuff like forever? Or can we take a picture? Because really it's about the memory, not the actual item, right? The picture, a good, and cell phones take great pictures. A good picture will bring back that flood of memories. Do you actually have to hold the picture that your kid drew in second grade to get those memories? Or can you look at a picture of the picture? I would argue a picture's fine. Honestly, that's what I've been doing this past month, is looking at pictures from 11 years ago which was our last major snowstorm here. My kids were 11 years younger. They were little, and all the sledding we did in the backyard and all the things. Did I need to hold on to any particular mementos? No, all the memories came back and all the things. So consider that. Take pictures of stuff that, of mementos and things like that. You don't necessarily need to hold on to original stuff. All right, let's see here. Let's see. I'm looking for, should I put QQQ if you got questions? Oh man, you know what? I guess need to throw away my kid's baby teeth. I still have my kid. That's so weird, right? That's like a I don't know, serial killer thing or something, but it's not. Like I have every tooth fairy tooth in an envelope. Tucked away. I don't know why. What am I doing? Am I gonna make a necklace? I'm never gonna make a necklace. No, it's just a snapshot of history, right? These are the things that who knows? We'll take it out when I have grandkids someday, God willing, and be like, "Oh, this is your parents' teeth," and they'll probably get all grossed out and run away. Oh, MJ says faucets are easy. Ask Jen. You know what? They can be until they're not. Until they're not. Because the shutoff valves haven't been touched in 15, 20 years, and they're corroded, and you can't turn them, and they're beyond saving, and then you got to replace those, and it can be a little bit of a nightmare. MB10097 says, now a good time to list on the MLS or wait till the end of spring break? Staging pictures taken and house is ready. My response to you is going to be, are you ready? Are you ready? If you are, do it now. Pull the trigger now. Spring break, honestly, is irrelevant. Your buyer is not on spring break. Likely. No. College kids, young kids, whatnot. No. People buy houses 365 days a year, 52 weeks out of the year. Christmas holiday, I get calls I take 2 weeks off during Christmas holiday, and I still might, I got messages waiting for me, calls waiting for me, all the things. Things don't stop moving. Why? Because there's always a need, especially in areas of the country where the inventory hasn't caught up yet. The Northeast, for one, there's always going to be the right property comes on the market, it's gone. The condo that I listed sold in 3 days. Why? Because there's nothing else on the market. There's nothing else in that market, in that price range, in that complex, all the things. If you're ready, pull the trigger. It's all about what's good for you, not the market. The market's kind of irrelevant, in that regard. You have to price it based on the condition of the market, on what the buyer demand is, all the trends and all the things like I was talking about earlier. But in terms of you and your plan, no, don't adjust your plan based on the market or the calendar unless that affects your plan. Unless it affects, you don't want to move during the winter because you have personal reasons, not why you personally can't do it. That's a different story. But the market, no, don't worry about the market. Celeste asks, is it common to get 2 home inspections to get a second opinion? Not really. Not typically, no. For a home seller, no, definitely not. For a home buyer, I have, honestly, so typically what would happen on a home inspection is if a buyer has a home inspection, say they found structural issues, or they found, something that was beyond the scope of a general home inspection, you would take that item and you'd have a contractor in that field come back for an assessment, a deeper assessment, not a full home inspection, but maybe isolated to that particular issue to see, so that you understand exactly what you're buying. You understand exactly what it's going to cost to make the repair, because home inspectors are not they're not a reliable source for estimating repairs. I wouldn't hang my hat on that. You got to do your independent research on that. So, but a full home inspection? No, I haven't heard anybody doing an actual full home inspection at all. So, all right, I want to get into the next part because I got a couple more things to talk about. Now, one of the things that, when you're looking at all the house side of things, that's one thing. But to get your house ready for the market, one of the things that I talk about endlessly in my videos is interviewing and hiring an agent early. Now, why? Number one, it can be a grueling process. It can be a grueling process. It's not the thing that everybody wakes up and says, great, I get to interview a real estate agent today. I'm so excited. Typically, no. You just want to find the right person and then go on to the thing that you have to do, which is get the house ready. Finding the right agent, number one, you get to check it off your list. And the right agent, just as a side note, the right agent is not there just to sell the house. I'm going to repeat that because it's super important. The right agent is not there to just sell the house. The right agent is there to help be an advocate for you, to help advise you on all the things you need to do to get the house ready. And that might be a month, 2 months, 6 months or more before. And I talk about this, reaching out. If you think you need more time than 6 months, I have folks that reach out for referrals that aren't selling for like a year or more. And when you're going through that process, you want to interview more than one person. Now, I do referrals. I'll get you in contact if I have a pre-vetted referral partner in your area. All across the country, coast to coast, Alaska, California, New Mexico, Texas, Chicago, Florida, Massachusetts, doesn't matter, all over the country. I have helped folks, connect to a great, what I call the 20% agent. 20%, nothing to do with commission. Some people can feel like, no, I'm not charging 20%. That's 20% of the agent population, the top 20%, the one that's looking out for your best interest. Interview at least 3 agents. Now, at this point, based on, especially right now with the weather being as it is and being, my time being crunched because I've had to be a full-time snow blower, walk, front walk, shoveler, all the things. I typically, right now I'm doing one referral, per, request. I will never pressure you. Now, these agents may be good, but they may not be the right fit personality-wise. I vet them out, make sure, I try my best to match them, but only you are going to be the one to feel that you're a good match. That's why you want to interview more than one agent. You want to sit down and comparison, doesn't matter if you're building a deck or an addition or you're building a whole house, you get 3 bids. This is the same type of thing. Why? Because you're paying these people a lot of money. There's no question. You're paying them a lot of money. Make sure you advocate for yourself and do this process early. You might out of the gate be like, this is perfect. I align, done. You may go through 3 agents and be like, none of them align. So you've got to go on to a 4th. It may take time. Do it early. They're the ones that the right agent is the one that's going to be able to give you that feedback that with data, you don't have. The data being, what are the buyer trends? What do the buyers want? All the things that will affect how you prepare the house. Super, super important. The other thing that, and actually they touch on this in that research paper, and I wanted to bring it up as a talking point here, is selling at MLS versus private sale. Now, I mentioned this earlier about, some folks, a lot of folks reach out and say, I just don't want to deal with it. My house needs a lot of work. I don't want, I'm embarrassed to have people come through my house. Can I just sell to one of these, we buy ugly houses or, selling it as is companies, whatever. I'm going to tell you that the agents that I refer, the 20% agents, are full service agents. However, there's room for everybody in the party. There are discount brokerages. There are, if you're doing for sale by owner, there are agencies that will charge you $500 and put it in MLS. There are folks that will sell it for you as is. The thing that I'm going to caution you about is you got to look at all the pros and cons when you're deciding what avenue you want to go down. What I mean by that is you want to look at, okay, if I put an MLS, you're going to be exposed to a lot of buyers, a lot more buyers than if you don't put an MLS. Why? Because MLS feeds into all the websites, the Zillows, homes.com and realtor.com and all that jazz. That source primarily is through the MLS. It's exposure to buyers. When you sell privately, you do not. Why is that important? Because historically, the data shows the more people you can get in front of, the better chance you have of getting multiple people interested. The more people you have interested, the higher the offer is. It just doesn't matter the market. It just is. Why? Because people make offers emotionally. And if there's a lot of people that are interested, it doesn't mean it's, the pandemic all over again. It just means that they will not try to nickel and dime you as much because they have a pressure point. Now, the private sale is, it could be you're selling it to your family member, it could be your neighbor, or one of these, we buy houses as is, you will make less money. That's just a fact. It's just, that is an absolute fact. The data supports that. That's not necessarily a reason, hands down, not to do it, but you've got to go back to the list of what's most important to you. If the most important thing, or the second most important thing, is to maximize the money you're pulling out of the house, you do not want to do private sale. Even if, and you know what, we love our family and all the thing, more or less, depending on what your situation is. But the fact is that most folks that do private sale, they are selling it to them for less. And if that's okay, then that's fine. When you're dealing with these, companies, though, that buy houses as is, the thing that I want you to remember is, number one, do not sign anything without reading the fine print. And I would have an attorney review anything and everything that you before signing it. But their whole thing is they will typically offer you 60%, 70% on the dollar. It's the discount. That's how, why? Because they have to protect themselves. Because they're buying it as is. They have no idea what's wrong with it. They have no idea what needs to be done. And they're looking to make money. And what are they going to do? They're going to fix it up and flip it. That's what they do. You will make less money. Again, being aware of what is most important to you is critical in deciding on what makes sense for you. Now, the other thing that you want to know, and this is the thing that I think affects oftentimes, folks that 70 and older that walk away with less money, is you don't know your financials going into this. And what are your financials? Well, number one, at the very, very basic, level, your agent, when they do a valuation on your house, should give you a net proceeds breakdown. Absolutely non-negotiable. If they don't, there's a problem. And what is the net proceeds breakdown? That's going to show you everything you're paying and the estimated amount of money you're going to walk away with. So there should be no gray area. Why is that important? Well, when you're negotiating and all of a sudden the buyer starts asking for repairs and blah, 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 if you have no idea how much money you're walking away with, that is super stressful. Every little thing they ask for is going to be like, it's scary because you have no idea how that affects your bottom line. If you know your bottom line, you know how much wiggle room or lack of wiggle room you have. But then it takes away that stress of the unknown. The other piece of the puzzle is, in knowing your financials, is about capital gains. And I know you guys brought up capital gains earlier. You need to know where you stand. And if you have a financial advisor, if you have a CPA, I would advise reaching out to them to find out how is that going to affect you? Are you going to be stuck with paying some extra taxes? You don't want any surprises after you sell the house. That's terrifying. You need to know what your financials are. Do you have a reverse mortgage? How many mortgages do you have? All the things. You need to know your financials before you start the process. Now, the thing that I want you to remember though, the financials do not dictate. They never dictate how much you're going to sell the house for. That separation, I cannot overemphasize. I can't, because I've heard it time and time again. I need to sell for this because I have to pay that. The buyer doesn't care. I'm sorry, they don't. The buyer doesn't care. And the buyer's the one holding the money. The buyer determines what they want. You cannot force a buyer to pay more because you have bills to pay. Not their problem. They're looking at the house. So the point and the goal is to be aware of what your finances are, because you know what? Is it possible that you look at your finances, you talk to your CPA, you do all these things, and you're like, you know what? I can't sell it and walk away with that kind of money. So you decide not to sell. If you have that option, it could happen. Know now before you spend tons of time and money putting it on the market and all that nonsense just to find out that you probably shouldn't have done that in the first place. Know your financials. Have a detailed plan. I've been kind of talking about this. This kind of goes hand in hand with the having a list, but the plan I'm also talking about here is in the question I ask home sellers in my first meeting: where are you going to go? Why are you going to sell, and where are you going to go? Period. If a home seller tells me, I don't know where I'm going yet, we're not putting the house on the market. Period. I will not put the house on the market, even if the seller pushes, unless they know where to go. Why? What happens if we get an offer right away? The offer, now they got to close in 6 weeks. The brakes come out. Now the whole deal goes sideways. The house sometimes comes off the market because the seller says, well, I can't move out in 6 weeks. I don't know where I'm going to go. You need to have that conversation with yourself and know and have a game plan. This is where that, interviewing an agent, have them by your side comes in handy now, because they can help you coordinate. Maybe you're selling and you're buying. You're like, I don't know how to do that. That's like overwhelming. And there are multiple ways, a lot of creative ways to get that done, depending on you and what is important to you, what your risk tolerance is, what your goals are, where you're going, all the things. You've got to have that detailed plan. As you're getting ready, you can still do the house prep and all the stuff, but do not put it on the market until you have that plan. Have the financial plan, have your moving plan. You got to have all that stuff planned out. It will make it so much less stressful, when you do this. I think that's another contributing factor why we see a lot of home sellers, agreeing to lower prices, because of upkeep and lack of upkeep, pricing the house that doesn't reflect the condition of the house, and then they have to lower the price. Is that possible? Oh, heck yeah. Especially if they're 80% agents. You got to know, the plan. You got to know the plan. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention is managing your expectations and emotions. This is tough. Managing your expectations and your emotions. If you live in an area where there's a lot of inventory, houses are not moving, you need to know what the data is in your neighborhood so you can manage your expectations. So you don't freak out if the average sale, the average house, it takes a month, 6 weeks to get an offer, and it's been 3 weeks. Knowing that information, if you have to write it down, then write it down. Do whatever you need to do so that you can look at that and be like, okay, so I'm on track. What I'm experiencing is normal for my area. Not Jen's area, my area. Manage your expectations. Manage your expectations that buyers in this market, in the market that we're in nationally, they're going to probably come in lower than asking. Why? That's the trend. The market has settled down. It's no longer COVID. I mean, yes, you're going to have pockets where buyers are offering at or above, but that's not the norm anymore. If you manage that expectation, now you're not sideways if they come in after, under asking. It makes a huge difference. Now you can negotiate that as a transaction without losing sleep about it. And then, that goes hand in hand with managing your emotions. It is impossible to not include emotions when you're, even if, unless you're the stoic engineer type and you're just like, hey, this is just four walls and a roof. That's not normal. That's not the norm. I shouldn't say that's not normal. That's not the norm. It's not the norm. It's an emotional process. There's no question about it. So you've got to be aware about your emotions, and this is why not to be repetitive and all and harp on it, whatever not. But a great agent is unemotional, supportive, but it's our job to step out of the emotions. Why? Because we're here to balance and to allow you to feel the things you're feeling, but put some pragmatic advice into it. Acknowledge the fact that it's stressful, but help you manage the business of the transaction. Because that, after all, it is a business transaction. It's not going to feel that way when you're selling your house. You've been there a while. It's just not. But that's what a good agent, that's what our job is. So, all right, let's get to the comments. You guys can share with me your thoughts about all this stuff. Let's see. Oh, Emma Joy was adopting a kitty. That's why they were late. Oh, so cute. So cute. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. All right, what do we got? What do you got? My kid's teeth are in my hutch. That's hilarious. I should do like a shadow box that I used to scrapbook years and years and years ago. I should put like a shadow box. That would totally freak him out, I think. A little bit of shock and awe. MB10097 question. My house is ready. Staging pictures taken today. Should I go ahead and list on MLS next week? Yes. Did I answer that already? I may have. No, I did not. Good grief. Menopause Swiss cheese brain is a real thing. Guys, it's not great sometimes. If I can't remember something or I do something and I'm like, why'd I do that? I blame it on menopause. It's just easy. It's like a scapegoat. It's the best scapegoat ever. Do you all concur? Mickey asks, capital gains is killing me after owning my home for over 30 years. Is a complicated trust the way to go to minimize tax? I'm gonna defer when it comes to specific capital gains questions. I'm always going to defer to a CPA. You want an accountant. You want to talk to them that know the intricacies of your particular financial situation. However, the one thing that I will say, and I did a video on capital gains a while back, you want to look at what updates you can add to your exclusion list to bring that net value down. If you've done a lot of updates over the years, that in itself minimizes. However, they've got to be on an IRS approved list. And you can get that list on irs.gov on what the approved updates are that will, minimize your value for your liability, capital gains liability. But what you need is a very astute accountant or CPA to really get creative within the confines of, what's legal, all the thing, of course. But, there's always ways to try to keep money in your pocket, not missing out on opportunities. So I hope that answers your question. Oh my goodness. Medina says, my mother-in-law has 30 photo albums and 1,000 odd slides. Oh, yikes. I know I started scanning pictures of, 35 millimeter pictures years ago. Okay. The question is, what do you think of Compass's private exclusive? So interestingly enough, I actually talked with somebody who works for Compass and got a little bit more information about this. And it depends on your situation. It really depends on your situation. Taking advantage and to be clear, what they do is not exclusive to Compass. Any agent can do this. Any agent can do this. Basically, an exclusive with Compass means that you list it, but it doesn't go in MLS for a specified period of time. And why would you do that? If you live in an area, in a neighborhood that maybe you don't have any comps, maybe you're unsure certain of the comps, and you want to just test the price, you can do that. Put it on the market 2 weeks, the exclusive. What that basically means that Compass does have like a website, like a portal that all Compass agents have access to. And the Compass agents can see that, give feedback, all the things. In talking to this Compass agent, surprisingly, they're being accused of, in-house sales and limiting exposure and all the things. And they said, surprisingly, like there's not many sell, Compass agent to Compass agent. It's more about, testing the market. Or if you have, and I think like if you have an affluent area, and quite honestly, they don't want the public exposure for personal reasons. You don't want people just walking through, like crazy because they're curious. They don't want to be out on the internet with their photos of the interior house, all over, the interwebs and all the things. I think there's a place for it. But every agent can do that to a certain degree. They may not have the network that Compass has set up, that in-house portal so that all Compass agents, but all Compass agents, they're not the ones that are on that. Not every Compass agent is going to sell the house. That Compass agent in Massachusetts isn't going to sell a house in California. So I think it can be a tool. Is it the reason I would choose a Compass agent? Not necessarily, but I think it can be used. Used properly, it could be a good tool. Angie's with the QQQ. Should I get a storage unit for boxed stuff? Not sure how to schedule a long distance moving company when I don't know how long it will take to sell. Great question. That's a great question. So the answer is going to depend on a couple different things. Number one, what do you have for space in your house? Do you have a basement? Do you have an area in your home where you can put boxes? If you don't, get a storage unit. Number one. Number two, if you don't know exactly where you're going, say you're going to go to the new area and rent for 6 months. That could be a reason you put things into a storage unit. If you're going to do that, I would highly advise that you set up a mover. Make sure that you have a mover that you've already talked to and interviewed and all the things that will load the stuff from the storage unit into the truck and bring it to wherever you need to go at a future date. That's how that's how it's going to work. Unless you do like a pod, which is another option. Instead of doing a storage unit, a lot of folks do. My brother did that when they moved to Texas. They got a pod, they filled the pod, and then they had the pod shipped down to where they were moving to down in Texas. Some people do that and then put the pod in storage and they hold it. I think the question you need to figure out the answer to is where are you going and what does that look like? Are you moving? Is your intention to buy another house right away, or is your intention to rent for a bit and then buy? Because that will affect how, the coordination of the move. If you move into a rental that's fully furnished, you don't need all your stuff. And, and even then, if you move into a temporary rental, do you really want to move your stuff twice? Move your stuff from your house into your rental, unload it, and then have to pack it back up again to move to the new house. I think a furnished rental on a temporary basis is the way to go. But I think that if you have storage challenges in your current home, You know, you don't have a place to put boxes that are out of the way, that are not a distraction. You know, in Massachusetts, here we have a lot of, you know, most homes have basements, and some basements, if they're big enough, they have plenty of space to put these things. But if you don't want the boxes to be a distraction to the buyers coming through the house either. So I think there's value in that as well. So I hope that helps you. Here we go. Kenneth says that, Andrew, moving across country too, we rented a storage unit to begin packing and help and declutter. Our home sold in less than 48 hours, so we're already prepped for a quick move. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly why I'm having this conversation, because what if things go faster than you anticipate? Even if the market, you know, data says 30 days to an offer, I always tell my clients, like, what if we get an offer the day the house goes on the market? I'm not saying that that's normal. I'm not saying that's what you should expect, but what if? You need to be prepared for that, you know, that situation, just in case, because you never know. You never know who's out there, you know, for buyers that are waiting in the wings, that are waiting for your house. Great question. Great response. Thanks for sharing that. Dun, 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 dun. Commentary. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, Tracy said that we had the pod taken back to the storage facility until the move. There you go. Emma just said, but just beware of moving brokers in Florida. Good point. Yeah. Moving companies, just like everything else, talk to several. Definitely, if you can, get recommendations. Look at Yelp. Look at Google reviews. Do as much as you can. I get asked the question all the time about, you know, movers I recommend. I don't typically recommend movers because the crews change, you know, but if you can find somebody recent, and when you're looking at reviews, make sure that they are recent reviews, you know, so that you can they reflect the crew that is moving. If at all possible, a family-owned business, even if it's a little bit more money, I think that's a good way to go too. You know, there's more accountability, there's more, you know, intention to take care of you, I guess. Dun, 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 dun. A wife interrupted, says we buy houses, people. Yes, I entertained them once out of curiosity. They offered $250,000 for a house, according to my research, was market at $350, $375. There you go. 70 cents on the dollar. 70 cents on the dollar. Angie says, well, how do you secure a short-term rental? We have no idea how long the sale, et cetera, will take. I guess we're going to have to be hotel regulars. What people typically will do is they'll do the research ahead of time. Because I've helped folks move into this area, and I'll give them a list of, you know, different apartment buildings or whatnot, you know, that offer short-term rentals. They may come into the area and scope them out. They may, you know, have, you know, ask, you can ask the agent to do that for you. You know, do like a FaceTime or, you know, video chat, and they can walk through the apartment. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's not your forever home. It's a roof over your head. As long as it's, you know, the money makes sense and all the things, there's not a whole lot of, you know, checking out to be had. But the other thing is if you are looking for short-term rental, I tend to you know, strongly recommend, you know, the companies that have, you know, typically a lot of short-term rentals, you know, the apartment buildings and things when there's a lot of turnover, because you're not going to move likely until you know the house is under contract and you have a closing date. Then you'll move, because you're not going to necessarily move out while the house is on the market, because you don't know how long it's going to take. And if it's a one-off single family that is being rented by Joe Schmo, it may be gone by the time you actually get an offer. So, you know, the big thing is that, you know, if you have a general idea, you have a list of areas that typically have open rentals, or, you know, a lot of the companies that apartment buildings and, you know, management companies that I refer to, they also know what's coming up. And they say, okay, these people are not renewing their lease. It's going to be available in June. That type of thing. So you help you plan. I think the thing you do is you play it by ear. You play it by ear. As soon as the house goes under contract, then you start putting things in motion. But please defer to your agent on guidance, because it depends on how many contingencies are in the offer. Because the last thing you want to do is commit to a rental and then have your deal fall apart. It'd be tough. The thing is when you're moving from state to state, when you're moving, period, the thing that I want you to remember is that there is an element of risk when you're buying and selling homes. What does that mean? It is not done until you have the cash or keys in your hand. Anything can happen. It's not meant to be scary, just being pragmatic. And it is what it is. And that's, an agent, our job is to try to not scare you, but prepare you. Don't give notice to your landlord. Don't do that too early. You can call and say, hey, okay, hold that. Yes, we're interested in that apartment, but don't give them any money until maybe after the home inspection. You want to make sure that you reach a point where it's the least amount of risk, but not being too late. You don't want to do it too early, because anything can happen. Anything can happen. That's part of the managing expectations part of the thing. Just because you get an offer does not mean it's a done deal. Hopefully, but that's just reality. Kenneth says our house went on the market Sunday. Sold in less than 48 hours. 36 over asking. Wow. That's fantastic. That's awesome. We are beyond thrilled. So with our agent, is there an appropriate way to tip him or show our appreciation? You know what? Wait until after the transaction closes. Wait to see how they, there's an old saying I heard way back. And it goes like this. A turkey can fly in a hurricane. A blind squirrel finds a nut. There's a million of them. What does that mean? It's easy to make it look easy when it's easy. When things are going fine, you get an offer and all the things, the agent looks like a hero, whatever. Everything looks good. The measure of a professional in any profession is how they handle things when they get tough. Negotiations get tough. The buyers are difficult. Buyer's agent's difficult. All the things. That is the measure of the professionalism, the amount of work that your agent's going to do. Hopefully it doesn't necessarily happen, but, you want to wait to the end. In terms of appropriate, there's no inappropriate. The laws that govern real estate agents state we cannot take tips, fees, from another professional. An attorney cannot give me a gift card as an appreciation for recommending him as an attorney, or a lender. That is in violation. I could lose my license. They could lose their license. But a citizen, a consumer, you can do whatever you want. You can buy, a bottle of wine or a gift card or whatever the heck that's. So you can do whatever you want, in terms of whatever you feel is, that you feel is appropriate. And I will tell you that it's a tough job when you're doing it right. And there's definitely more criticism than praise. Your agent will be overjoyed and appreciative of anything you do, if that's the case. I will tell you that right now. Well, you're all down in my neighbors to the south in Connecticut. Awesome sauce. Let me just make sure we got. Let's see what we're gonna do. I'm gonna jump on the poll. We got 96 votes. In the chat, and whatnot. Let's see here. We got Cindy, thank you so much.
Super chat.
Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you for that. I really, really, really do. Thank you for that. We got a win. Summers 41. Woohoo! Just got an offer on my condo. No closing costs, no inspection. After 100 days on the market, after 2 deals fell through. Everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that. Like it or leave it. Everything that has happened bad, there's always been something good that I'm glad that happened instead of the thing that I wanted to happen, and all the things. Everything is meant to be kind of thing. Congratulations. Congratulations on that. I'm happy for you. I'll make sure I don't miss any QQQ. I won't miss any of your questions. Let's see here. Jose says, hi, Jen. Aside from a newly constructed house, what is the sweet spot for buying an older house? Is a house less than 10 years old a good option? Well, okay, define older house. Because that's a big question mark. Are we talking 100 years, 150 years, or 50 years, or 40 years? When you're talking an older home, I'm actually going to meet a client to go take a look at a house that was built in the 1800s on Thursday. And the benefit of an older home, well, for starters, they don't make them like they used to. But if it hasn't structurally moved, like, the way it's been standing for as long as it has, it's a good bet. It's probably going to be standing for a lot longer. Potentially. However, there are nuances depending on how old is old. If you're talking 100 years or more, there is a special type of buyer. You've got to be specific on and really clear about what it's going to take to buy an older home. For starters, the maintenance never ends. I mean, the maintenance never ends on a regular home of any age, but it is much more so on an older home because things need attention. The flip side, it's I guess you can compare it to buying a car. As you buy a new car, you got to pay more money, typically. Certain spots in the country, new homes, Texas, are going to be a little bit, you're going to save some money. That's not the norm. Advantages would be still under warranty. The crucial elements, the heating system, AC, any mechanicals will have warranties. Older home, 10, 15, 20 years plus, won't necessarily have that, overall. But you know what? I'm going to tell you, Jose, I'm less concerned about the age of the home and how the home's been maintained. I have seen homes, as true as I'm sitting here, I've seen homes that are 5, 10 years old, less than 10 years old, that are in worse condition than my 50-year-old house. Period. It depends on how the people take care of it. And I've seen 50-year-old homes that are stellar compared to a 10-year-old home because of the fact that when things broke, they fixed it, whatnot. It really depends. It really depends. But it also depends on, are you the type of person that, just to use an example, iPhone comes out, you buy a new iPhone every year, or you buy a new car every 5 years, 2 years, whatever. Depends on your personality. Really. You're like, I'm not going to fix anything, so buy as new as possible. If you're not a DIYer, if you admit the fact that you're not great at upkeep, I would get something as new as possible. So, let's see. Angie says, planning on a short-term rental to figure out the neighborhoods, start looking for a house ASAP. I think that's smart. The rental would be smaller than our house, so we would need storage regardless. Yep. And so it should be, because you don't want to dump any more money than you have to in a rental. You want to be as frugal as you possibly can. It may not be as comfortable, all the things. Who cares? It's temporary. But I think that's smart. That's what my brother did, rented for a year before figuring out where they wanted to live and all the things. I think it's a smart move. I think it's a really smart move. Deanne says the 1-bedroom condo in West Roxbury had offers. The first open house. Others have been on the market 2 months or more. Wow. That speaks to proper pricing and a reflection of the presentation. Presentation then properly priced. Good for you. Yeah, the market's moving here. It's just, but you got to price it right. You always. Do you have a referral list of land realtors? So most agents do, like, if you live in an area where there is a lot of land being sold, those agents are going to be double duty. They're not going to specialize necessarily unless it's like equestrian, or farmland or that type of thing. Then it's not a list based on what their specialities are. It's more, I vet and ask the questions and I look at their history and what they've sold and all the things to see what kind of experience they have in that area. But typically they're going to be selling single families, they're going to be selling condos, they're going to be selling all the things. But if they have an elevated level of knowledge in a certain area, that is what you should be looking for. But I would treat it as a regular referral. If you were to ask me for a regular referral, for a referral with an agent that has experience in land, I would look for an agent that has that experience, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm not a gift basket making guy. Wine, yes. Baskets, no. I'll be honest, I'm not either. My gift basket is a tote. I'm very pragmatic, and my gifts are usually the same. Housewarming. Typically buy my buyers, a tote with moving essentials and paper towels and paper, toilet paper and a bag of popcorn and water. Very practical. Nothing fancy, nothing they're going to hang on the wall, but it's all stuff that for me, I would want to use when I'm moving and I don't know where everything is, plastic utensils and all the things. But you got to read the room. Read the room. Awesome. All right. That's a great question. Is welcome wagon still a thing? I don't know. I know that it was, oh gosh. When I first got into this business, 96, it was, late 90s, early 2000s. There was totally a welcome wagon thing. I have no idea. It was all like coupons for companies and samples and stuff like that. I don't even know if they do that anymore, to be honest. All right. The poll. Which would you choose when selling your home? And I'm going to take a quick snapshot of this so I don't lose it, because when I stop the live stream, I lose the poll. So it's a little quirk with YouTube. So 16% said that they would take a lower price but sell within 1 week. Again, there's no right or wrong answer on this stuff. 22% said they would take $25,000 more but a longer listing time, 3 months of showings. 24% said sell as is for slightly less money, so you're willing to take it on the chin just so you don't have to do anything. And again, this is not right or wrong, or whether it's very personal, but interesting to know kind of where people are at. And then 37%, the majority, said they would do repairs, declutter, and to sell quickly, and which is in alignment with what I'm hearing, that you're willing to put the energy into getting the house ready in order to sell it faster. And typically the rule of thumb is the faster the home sells, the more money you will make on that sale. The longer a period of time, the longer the house sits on the market, the difference between the list price and the sale price, the gap grows. And that sweet spot is 2 to 3 weeks. It is just data tells us this. Within 2 to 3 weeks is when you're going to get closest at or above asking. You are not going to get an at or above offer. Typically, very, very, very unlikely that you'll get an at or above offer a month, 2 months, 3 months out. The ship sailed because it's opening the floodgates. It's all the buyers that haven't found a home. It's the first 10 days, 2 weeks. That's when you have the most amount of activity because it's brand new. You've got all the buyers that haven't found a home, and you've got all the buyers on top of that are just starting to look for a home. And so you have the greatest number of buyers, the most amount of interest, which is why that distance between the list price and sale price is so close. To maximize that is crucial. It is crucial to try to, and that's why you prepare. That's why you prepare. Check the chat one more time, and then I'm gonna hit the road and get some food. I really enjoyed chatting with you guys and all the things. Oh yeah, Allie Dion says that the post office links you to coupons and with address change. Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to check. I'll have to do a little research on the welcome wagon. That's a good question. But guys, have a great week. Thanks for joining me. As always, you know what? There's a lot of folks do these live streams and all the things. A lot of distractions out there, and I appreciate you choosing to hang out with me for an hour 45 minutes. I really do. It makes me happy to hear you guys give your input and your questions and all the things. I appreciate you. I really appreciate you guys. Guys, have a great week. Be safe. If you're in an area that's still cold, you're in the Northeast, whatnot, like spring's coming. Please, spring's coming. And, but be kind. It's bonkers crazy out there. Be kind to your neighbors and people in the grocery store and on the road and all the things. And as I always say, before you judge, be curious. Be curious, not judgmental. If you don't agree with someone, ask questions. Try to understand. Doesn't mean you have to agree. It's okay to disagree, but respect their position and ask and try to understand their position, because you might be surprised at what you learn. Be curious, not judgmental. Guys, have a great week, great evening, and I'll see you guys all next Tuesday, barring any other unforeseen blizzards, which I don't think is not gonna happen. Knock on wood. See you next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. Guys, have a great week. I'll see you then. Ciao.